Hi everyone, I am right now in the playing venue of the World Juniors 2024 and the day is over, but I'm here for a very special reason. Today I'm going to be trained by a Grandmaster in positional chess. So, it's quite easy to train tactics or let's say attacking chess, but positional chess is often quite tricky. So there's a GM from Gujarat who's come specially here to help me, and Ankit. Hello Ankit.
Hi Sagar.
Ankit, you are a Grandmaster and you became a GM in?
2014.
Oh, it's been 10 years.
Yes.
So 10 years ago you became a GM and today you have come here to help me improve my positional chess. And we have this challenge in front of us. So we've put up 6 positions, 3 here on the top 3 boards of Open and top 3 boards of Women. So there are 6 positions. So all of you should join me in trying to solve this. Ankit, should they take any time?
Yes, I would recommend that. So when the position comes, I would recommend that they pause the video, they think for a few minutes, try to come up with the idea, and then resume the video. So then they can listen to our conversation, and then they can compare with what their thought process was and how it should be.
So roughly 5 minutes should be good.
Yes, roughly. So please don't try to do it like tactics, just 10-20 minutes. So just try to spend a bit more of time because it's positional chess. So, in positional chess, one of the most important things is you, most of the times you don't get something immediately. So unlike tactics where there is clear material gain or some checkmate ideas, but here you have to slowly improve the position. So, so it's very important that you try to understand how the position is, what are certain strengths in your position, weaknesses in your opponent's position, compare, and then you take a call. So for you to maximize the benefit of this video, I'd recommend that you spend a few minutes at least, and then you go for the solution of the position.
Okay, perfect. So should we begin with the first one?
Sure, let's do
Which
that.
one?
Yeah, so
this is the first one.
This is the first one, yes.
Okay.
And Sagar, this is black to play.
Oh, this is black to play. So can I go this side and you can come this side?
Sure. Let me do that.
Okay, so this one is black to move. I will also try and put a position on the side perhaps. Try to pause the video and think what is it that black should do here. And then when you have found the answer, you can resume. And maybe I'll also try to solve here because I don't know the answer of these positions. Okay, so Ankit, my first thought here, I'm sharing it with you because I don't know the answer. So this is the way I think, is that the white king looks weak on e3, and there's a queen trade that's going to happen, and it can only help white if the queens are traded. So my thought is not to trade queens, and if we don't want to trade queens, then I should be giving queen to c5 check. And then based on where the king goes, I can decide my next move like e5 with the idea of opening up the bishop and so on.
Absolutely correct, Sagar. So as we can notice from the position, so the biggest thing, as you said, is that the king in the center. And if we look at, let's just try to understand the position a bit more.
Maybe you can sit down and explain.
Yeah, sure. So let me do that. So of course, the biggest factor here is the king in the center.
Okay.
And as I can also notice, white has the double bishop advantage and black's development has not been completed. So what we should try to do is, because double bishop advantage is a long-term advantage for white, lack of development is an issue for us. So we should try to act energetically to take advantage of our opponent's weak king. Now, why energetically? Because if we give time, right? Let's say if we exchange the queens, then the problem what happens is that now we cannot attack the king. We need the queen, the most important attacking piece. So, but let's say now what to do? So some might think in this position that okay, can I not go queen a5, for example? But we have to remember that king safety or king weakness is not permanent at times. So for example, if you go queen a5, then maybe the king can slide over to f2 and then g1. And the biggest factor in the position, the king safety, is not an issue for white anymore. So it's very important that we do it in such an energetic manner, that is queen c5, not allowing the king to escape. Now let's say if white's king goes to f3, then as you correctly pointed out, now what should be our next task? So our next task is lack of development. Look at that bishop. We should play e5.
Oh, but Ankit, I have a better move perhaps. Does that work? Knight e5 check.
Wait a second. I think. Oh wait. Yeah.
Yeah, knight e5 check should end the game. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Knight e5 check should end the game. So I think. I think in this position, if the king goes to d3, then we should try e5.
Correct.
And
With the idea of
then
bishop
there is
f5.
bishop f5.
Right.
I think that would that should cover the thing. So yeah, I think I should try to train my tactics more.
But if king d2,
I think if king d2, then also we can play e5 because we need to get that bishop out, right?
so e5,
yeah,
fe5.
e5 because we need. So after that, we can get the bishop out with a tempo, and then this looks really dangerous position for white to be in.
Okay.
So that's the main point, because let's say if something like queen c4 happens, once again we don't want to trade. That's very important. Now what to do? Let's bring all the pieces into the game. With a tempo we can do it. Rook a d8 check. Now let's say if the king goes to e1, then we have this sneaky check queen g1, and then something would happen after that because this file is also open. So that's, and if the king goes to c1, then you have this queen e3 check as well actually. So that's very important, that the king is weak. So after avoiding exchange of queens, you try to get all the pieces out. So we got the bishop out, we got the rook out, and that's just lost for white.
Fantastic. Okay, so 1 out of 1 for me. Let's hope that everyone else also did
this
it.
one is white to play. So you can,
Okay, let's come here.
Yeah.
White to move now. This one, try to look at the position carefully. It's right out of the opening, it feels. Pause the video and try to figure out what would you do. Okay, so my thoughts are going towards the weakened dark squares. The d6 square, the f6 square, and the bishop is so beautifully placed. So my first thought is knight e4, just to jump to d6 or f6, and it already looks very strong unless I'm missing something. There's also the idea of pushing the pawn to d5 that comes to mind, because the knight on e7 is pinned, but I don't like it so much. Because e5 is also, maybe the c5 is not really hanging because d6 comes in. Take. Yeah, maybe it's a sharp, but I would play knight e4 and then just sink my knight into d6 or f6. Is that correct?
That's correct, Sagar.
Yes.
So yeah, so now let me try to elaborate a bit. So when you first looked at the position, so you said something along the lines of weak dark squares, right?
Yeah.
So now there would be viewers who would be wondering, how did you identify the weak dark squares so quickly at looking at the position? So the important thing to notice here is that these 5 pawns are on light squares. So how does that make a difference? Because one thing that we have to remember is that though the pawn gets pushed forward like this, but they don't control the square in front of them. They always control the squares like this. So one of the biggest disadvantages of having majority of pawns on light squares is the fact that what's defending the dark squares. So because of that, d6 gets weaker. Because of that, f6 gets weaker. Just imagine if the pawn was on e7, then we would be having a different conversation, because then we would not be able to take advantage of these.
Correct.
Now, before I go further into knight e4, let's try to, so you were also thinking about d5, and then you were also thinking that maybe if this capture happens, then there is this d6 tactic which can win a piece. So that's interesting. But one thing while you were saying this one, I was calculating is that there is e takes d5.
Yes.
So of course bishop takes d5. That is what you.
Yeah, I was thinking about some sack on f7.
Yes. So now the thing what happens. So what I was thinking, that black in this position might be able to play something like h6.
Yes.
And what would happen is, let's say if you play bishop h4 now, this can be a bit of a trouble because this bishop is under pressure. This bishop is now, you might have to bail out with bishop into c6. But that, the advantage that you had. So now someone can say, okay, we can play knight g5 or some sacrifice. That's interesting. But, and you were also thinking about, some sacrifice maybe on f7. Yes, that is there. But one thing that we should remember in a game is the fact that look at the position. Look at your space advantage because of pawn on e5. Dark squares of your opponent are weak. The bishop is active. This knight gets active. So when you have so much positional advantage, why should you take the risk of giving up the bishop and, complicate the matters? Because that is what black is waiting for. Such a passive position. So that's why you should play this move. Now, depending upon the black's response, so either you are going to play knight f6 check, because the only thing defending the dark squares is this bishop. If that bishop is gone, then after knight f6, bishop f6, bishop f6, you might even bring the queen to d2 h6. This is just too difficult now. And also after this, there is this fork also. So what black might do is black might play, okay, I'll play rook f8. And after knight f6, of course, black is not going to give up this bishop. So we might play this. And now what we can do is we can slowly improve the position. We are not in a rush. We can play queen d2, for example, here. What's the plan? We can try to plan for bishop h6 to try to exchange it. And just look at the position. From knight to e4, it has come to f6. So already passive position has become, there are ideas of queen f4, queen h4 also.
Right.
So, and already passive position with the knight on f6 has become an extremely, this is just tough for black to play.
Wonderfully explained. Thank you, Ankit. I'm 2 out of 2. I'm very happy.
Okay, so this time it is black.
We go to third position here. Yeah. Black to move. Ooh, tricky position, because guys, you can pause the video and then think on your own. Okay, my first instinct is this knight on d6 looks a little bit loose. So a move like g5 does come to mind, because if it moves, I can take the knight. But then he can sit on bishop e5. The f pawn cannot move because of the pin. Bishop takes d4 move looks possible, not impossible here in this position. b7 is weak. Rook a d1 could be a problem. Maybe not rook a d1 because c5, but yeah, queen b7 may be a thing. So, sure.
That way.
Yeah, also the d5 square is weakened here, right in front of the pawn. But if you were to ask me for a move here, bishop takes d4 does look very tempting to me. Yeah.
Okay. So, Sagar, this is the game of Pragnananda.
Okay.
Pragnananda had black pieces in this position, and I'm sorry, but your streak
just broke. Yeah.
Yeah. So bishop takes d4 is not the best move in the position, because there are also one of the problems that can happen. So so first you mentioned g5.
Yeah.
But bishop e5 we cannot play f6 because of the pin, so that doesn't work now. One thing as you mentioned is this knight is loose, number one. Another thing you should notice is that this is an isolated pawn. So so I would be a bit careful about capturing an isolated pawn, because it is a weak pawn. So it's, if white is able to trade it, for example, to get some other form of advantage, then you try to do it. So I would think a bit carefully before going for this, because number one, I would have to see like if my opponent is able to do something by bringing the rook to d1, because then this also there is this c5 idea. But once again, like I'm allowing that rook to get active. Now I would have to there are some interesting lines in this position. So one is queen takes b7. So queen takes b7, and then you can say maybe you can take on b2. So you would have to think about that line. But once again, things are not as easy as it seems, because there can be this rook d6 type of move. So you can try to calculate these things. But one thing that you should
but also to bishop d4.
Sorry, in
queen b7 directly can happen, yeah?
When bishop when do you want to play bishop?
d1.
1 second. So let me just put up the position. So this is so here the 1 second.
Yeah, queen d7, queen b3.
Yeah. So here which position? So it is when the bishop is on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wait.
I can directly also take on d7. Yes.
Sorry,
so d7.
So you want to play
instead of rook a d1.
Instead of oh yeah. So that is what I was. So but then this bishop b2 might come with a tempo.
Yeah.
So I would have to even the line I was calculating. So there is this interesting move. I'm not sure. So because there is knight takes, but I'm not a big fan of it. So there are some complicated lines. So for example, one is here directly c4 try to remove, but then this bishop would be going. But this is going with a check. So that can be an interesting thing. I was a bit skeptical because of that, actually, because this is going with a check actually.
Yes, but c4 there is queen f3, no? And then white should be
queen f3. So here queen f3. I think that's a nice resource.
Yeah,
so
because the b8 square is covered by the bishop.
So I was calculating another line that was rook b8.
Oh.
So and there is bishop into b8, rook into b8, I was in fact seeing whether the source knight c5 works. So then I was calculating queen c6 check maybe.
Check.
And then a queen f3, then queen into c5 can happen. But as you can see, things are getting quite complex.
Right.
So now if we go back to the original position, so let me just put these things. So bishop is here, rook is here, and then the knight is on d6 and the bishop is on f4. So and the rook is here. So if we look at the original position, so as you can see, it's not just a very straightforward way of capturing the pawn. Now, how should we try to approach it? So one thing I would look at it in this position is, what are certain other things that I can see? So one thing you should remember is that this is an isolated pawn. It's a weakness that we know. What else do we know? So there is an important principle that whenever your opponent has an isolated pawn, you should try to control the square in front of it. Now, if we want to bring a piece on that, which one would it be? So then the answer is the knight. Yeah. So, but then another question is that, okay, can something be done about? Wait, I need to. So yeah, okay. So can something be done about that? So there is this
knight c7 with the idea of knight d5.
Yes. So because now we have to calculate this, but there is this very strong move knight d5
because the knight is hanging and the bishop is attacked.
Of course. So what happens is, let's say the opponent plays something like this. We are not worried because we can capture, and then as you can see, the king side has gotten weaker and we can capture. Now we can capture this pawn. Look at the king side that has gotten weaker. So here we have to identify that we should try to isolate that pawn as there, and that knight on a6 was the least active piece. We are improving that.
Because we are improving your worst placed piece. And also getting the square in front of the isolated pawn.
And we are able to weaken our opponent's king if the opponent takes that pawn.
This was a tough one.
This was, yes, Pragnananda's example, sir.
Did he play knight c7?
Yes, he played, of course. He played and then he went on to win the game.
Beautiful. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So we are 2 out of 3. Let's go to the 4th one. Also, the vacuum cleaning is happening. So there's some sound, but guys, bear with us. This one, is it white to play?
This one is white to play, yes, Sagar.
Okay, let's go. So white to move here. Guys, you can pause the video. 4th position. I hope you're doing better than me. Okay, let's see. So I see that the b file is open. I see the b7 pawn is weak. I see the d5 pawn is weak. I see the f5 square could be used by my knight. I want to badly play e6. I don't know why. Although it's a pawn sacrifice, queen takes, somehow play rook e3 and then try to get my knight to f5, but doesn't seem great. Or e6, queen e6, rook b7, try to get that b pawn. But then again, why should I give up my pawn? Okay, what else are the possibilities here? Maybe I can double on the b file with rook b3, but d4 pawn is hanging. So yeah, my pawn on d4 is my weakness. I should think about it at some point. You know, if I didn't have much time more, I would play e6, queen e6 and rook b7. But if I have more time, I don't know what I would do. Yeah, like I would just... Because my knight on g3 is good, my bishop on f4 is also okay. I just don't want fe5 to get the open file, f file for the black pieces. So yeah, it's my answer e6. Is it correct?
That's absolutely correct, sir.
Nice.
So actually your intuition was good. So though you did not combine initially e6 with rook takes b7, but you had a feeling that this should be the move.
Yes, I wanted to use f5 square and mate you on g7 somehow. But maybe I was
so let's discuss this. So when we look at the position, so the first thing that we notice is that we have this, we are controlling the semi-open file, b7 pawn is weak, d5 is of course an isolated pawn, queen is controlling it. So we have some advantage, because of the pawn on c5, we have space advantage on the queen side. Now, another thing is that there is some tension between these pawns, so we have to be a bit careful because we don't want to help our opponent in creating activity on the king side while we are busy on the queen side. So one of the things, when we talk about this move e6 here, so an important thing to see is that we don't have time to play something like this, because if this, then there is simply knight into d4. So we cannot put pressure like this. So now so why e6? So one thing that you should always remember is, it's what makes a player stronger It's not that they know some special principles or they know the special things and stuff like that. It is what makes them stronger is, repeating simple things over and over and over and over with great accuracy. So, so we have seen this, like whenever the rook is on an open file, it is on an active file. What should we try to do?
So this is the 7th rank.
That's exactly it. We all know this, but then we need to implement that. So that's why e6 is important, because, and another thing is that we are not allowing this pawn. So basically it also helps us in keeping the king side counterplay of black at bay. So now the queen cannot go here because the bishop is, so queen has to take it. And now what we do is, now our rook gets on the 7th rank. Now, see, look at this bishop. Because of that rook b8 type of, black can't harass us. Now, what can we try to do is we can bring this rook on this file. We can bring the knight over here and queen g3. And there is significant amount of pressure just by getting that rook on the 7th rank. So that's what we can achieve by playing e6. So well done, Sagar.
Thank you. I'm on 3 out of 4, but great explanation.
So this time it is black
to move. Okay, let's go here. And black to move here. This one looks pretty complex to me. Black is a pawn down here. So you can pause the video once again and think. Okay, my first thought goes towards the knight on a4, which looks offside. I want to win it somehow because it's loose. Then the other thought goes towards the slightly weakened king, white king with pawns on f4 and g4. Yes, trying to combine few things. Maybe a move like g5 isn't so silly. But then again, I am creating a threat of winning the f4 pawn. And the overloading could happen because fg5, rook f3, queen f3, rook a4 is hanging. Okay, maybe just to continue that line, there is b3 at the end of it to get back the piece. Not so happy with that. But maybe I'm missing something simple. Okay, so g5 is one move. The other move, any other move when comes to my mind. What about queen a5? No, just knight c3 and black looks okay. Sorry, white looks okay. Maybe. Okay, so Ankit, I would go for g5 here. I don't know if it is correct. I couldn't calculate all through till the end, but maybe I'm wrong, yeah?
So, Sagar, one very important thing in chess is that, so at the core, so we play against the opponent.
Yes.
So, one mistake that you did in this thought process is you did not ask what your opponent wants to do in this position.
My opponent wanted the c5 square, I thought.
Yes, that is there, but there is one more move that can be even dangerous. Knight e6. The bishop is controlling that. So that's... So
g5, knight b6 is already a very strong move.
Yes, because, you would get rid of... white would get rid of the double bishop advantage. Even queens might get exchanged. And as you already mentioned, you're down a pawn. So, things would start...
So this was terrible, yeah?
Yeah, so this is extremely important that whenever you're playing a game, the first thing that should come into your mind is what does my opponent...
But then if I play rook b8, b4 looks good.
Yes, exactly. So, here the thing is that knight b6 is a serious threat, but white has ideas like bishop c5, knight c5, and if rook b8, then b4. So, what you need to do in this position is, you need to, when you mentioned that knight as a weakness, another thing that you mentioned as weak king, right? Now, can you consider slightly more dynamic options? I just wanted to push a bit. So now that you know this, can you think of something like that can deal with knight b6 and in an indirect way try to increase the pressure on the king side as well?
King side, yeah.
Something comes into it. It's like...
Well, I want to get my queen there. Oh, man. Is that the right answer? Is it bishop h4? Because then knight b6, I have bishop f2.
Yes. But, there can also be... I can make a case that bishop c5...
Exactly. Bishop h4 looks a little short-sighted.
So do you want to think for a bit, or should I tell you?
Well, no, I think I was just... Yeah, I'm now getting a bit curious. Queen e8 was one thought, knight b6, queen g6.
You need to be
kind of.
slightly more active. So try to consider more dynamic.
I was thinking h5 also, but gh5 I didn't see any.
Yeah,
any
and also
real
he
gain.
has an option, maybe like playing knight b6 anyway. We would have to calculate that actually. So see, I'll try to slightly give you a hint. Maybe then you'll. So one thing is, see. So we'll discuss more about this. So you already said about weak king. You already said about the weak knight. Another thing which we should try to do is, whenever we have double bishop advantage, please remember that most of the time it will be against bishop and knight because that's common. So try to do something with the bishop that your opponent does not have. So if you do with that, then it will become difficult for your opponent to defend it because that bishop is not there. So here it is.
Come on, this is crazy. Yeah, d4. No, this cannot be a good move. But this seems very interesting because you're giving the d5 square for your bishop. Yeah?
That's the move, yes.
Wow. That was very tough.
Yeah, that was...
I doubt if anyone found it. If you guys found it, please write to me in the comments. Then you are already on your way to becoming a GM. What do you think?
Yeah, so no, this one was not easy actually because there are so many weaknesses in the position. There are so many, tempting moves. But the way forward would be to see that knight b6 is a serious threat. And second thing you should see is that timing is a bit of an issue for black because not only we are down a pawn, but there can be b4 bishop c5 or direct bishop c5 or knight c5 type of idea. So we have to act energetically. Another thing, if you combine that with the double bishops, right, that maybe can I do something with my, so if you ask the question, can I do something with my light square bishop? And more importantly, you need to also combine the positional chess with calculation. So Sagar, here, if you calculate carefully, bishop into d4 is not possible.
Oh, rook a4. Right.
Yeah.
And queen d4 anyway is not possible because of rook a4.
Yeah, so that's, and queen d4, yes. So if you look at it, it's not, so...
You're not even giving up
You're not even giving up the pawns. That's such a great move actually.
Beautiful.
So, but this is what happens that as, with the later positional examples, the more difficult ones. So you have to combine a bit of calculation, right? Nothing too complicated, but
generally calculation and positional play or tactics and positional play go hand in hand.
Yes.
At a higher level.
Yes. So we are not, we are not winning any material after d4. But one of the key lines involves that calculation. So we at some point we have to do that. We cannot just rely on one. And now what happens, Sagar, here? See, this knight cannot go here, knight cannot go. So this has become a weakness. And let's say opponent is b3. Like, okay. So now look at this bishop actually.
Beautiful.
Absolutely great bishop. Rook d3, no problem. We can play c5. Now, Sagar, what we are going to do? This battery is there. We are going to play bishop c6 and queen d5.
Yeah, it's game over.
It's game over actually. So just, that bishop changed the whole course of the game.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Amazing. Wow. So I'm on 3 out of 5. I want to score the last one correctly. Is it white to play?
Yes, it is white to play, Sagar. So
Okay.
you can be here.
Let's go here. White to play. Last one, guys. I'm on 3 out of 5. If I get 4 out of 6, I'll be happy. You can pause the video here. Okay. Let's go through a little bit of the features of this. My queen is hanging, so that makes it slightly easier. My queen is hanging in 2 ways. The knight and the bishop. I wonder how this position even came about.
So, Sagar, just to let you know, the knight was on d7.
Yeah.
So there was that. So I'll just put the. So there was the queen takes. Then there is rook c8, right?
Got it.
So like
so he played knight c5.
So like there could be there could be a pawn here. So like the queen would also be attacked. So that could be one of the possible reasons how this position would have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So firstly, I like when the vacuum cleaner shuts off. I can think better. What about bishop takes b5? Tactics. But then a b5, queen b5, queen b5, a b5. Piece down. Not so happy as such. But maybe there's something there. If I move the queen c3, attacking g7. That's already something to think about, because then castles, I have d7 maybe, but yeah. So queen c3 is one move that I would think of. a5 is also another move that I shouldn't really miss out on. because then if bishop b3, a b6, I have a passer, a serious passer there. On b6, a6 is weak. But a5 can be met with queen a7 as well. And what about queen b4 here? Actually, queen b4, maybe just castles. I think I should take advantage of the c file somehow. I don't know how. Queen a3 doesn't look great. b4 might come in.
So I
Queen
would say, Sagar, you need to consider more weaknesses in your opponent's position.
Yeah, g7 definitely is undefended.
Okay.
Oh, what about d7 check directly? Because the king is weak. Knight d7, rook c8. d7, king d7. Knight e5 check. King e8. At least I got him uncastled. Queen g3, then switching the queen over, and I guess that's some kind of a victory for me, because the king is now weak and so on. So yes, I think I'll go for d7.
That's it. Yeah, you
Yes.
got the last one correct, Sagar. Great.
Well, you helped me a bit.
Yeah.
You know, I was not thinking in that direction. I was trying. I think I would have said a5 if you wouldn't have helped me.
No, once again, Sagar, I think you need to train your prophylactic skills,
Yes.
because after playing a5, I can just play queen takes d6.
Oh, I just missed it.
Yeah, you're considering queen
Yes.
a7. So that's also an important point. So see, in this position, when you look at this, of course, we have to deal with this. I mean, the queen attack. So we have some tempting moves like queen b4, queen a3, but we should also try to look at our opponent's position. So one weakness is clearly, this file, the pawn on g7. Another thing which we should always, the biggest weakness, we should always look at the king. So king in the center is the biggest weakness. Now, when we look at that, so sometimes what might happen is that, let's say the king is here, just giving an example, and the pawn is like, pawns are like something like, let's just remove these pawns, yeah. So now the king is weak for permanently, so you can build up your attack, right? But when we talk about this position, so king safety can be of two types. So king weakness, permanent weakness, temporary weakness. This is temporary weakness. You give me one move, I will castle. So you have to recognize that timing is very important here. And castle actually deals with three weaknesses of black together. The g7 pawn gets defended, this rooks get defended, and then, so this is not a problem and king gets safe. So, so that's why once you see that, then I mean, you just, this came into your mind. Knight d7 is of course losing to rook takes c8. So king takes d7. Now what we can do it, of course, centralizing the knight with a tempo. If the opponent goes something like king e8, once again, now this connection is not there. As you correctly pointed out, queen g3, attacking this weakness. And now we have ideas of b4 as well, actually. So that's a serious issue. Now, let's say in this position, if the opponent goes king e7, and like, okay, I'll keep the... So now what we do is we move the queen. We try to do here, we can have some knight d3 ideas as well possible. Now opponent is like, okay, no problem, I'll play queen d6. The relentless pressure must continue. We can play queen f4 in this position, for example. Now, but then, okay, opponent can be like, okay, what if I just play rook f8, right? Now, so we can put
E4.
pressure. Sorry.
b4 with the idea of take the rook and then f7.
That's possible, but so I was thinking of another idea actually, but I think b4. Okay, so and then take that and take on f7.
Yeah, looks good, right?
Looks good. So
Maybe there is some b4, knight d7,
before knight d7, rook c8,
queen
knight
e5.
into. Actually, so what, Sagar? I'm thinking about a crazy line.
Yeah.
Let me just. So I was thinking like this: knight d7, rook into c8. If of course rook into c8, then there is queen into f7. So I was thinking knight into e5. If rook into f8, knight f3 check. We try to get that queen.
Wow.
So I'm not sure like how how much. So but I mean, if we go for deeper calculation, something might be there. But what you should try to do is very important. Sometimes when we are focusing on the king weakness, we focus only on the king side. No, make use of the long range pieces. A takes b5. B takes b5.
Okay,
try to get that rook into the game.
Nice.
So just giving an example, this is already clearly better. So there will be more than one way with which you can continue. But the most important thing was d7 check. Now, sacrificing a pawn for weakening the king, you can even do intuitively. You don't need to calculate a lot. If you're sacrificing a rook to make the king weak, then that's another thing. But
also, that pawn was almost dead. Yeah.
yes, it was almost dead.
He actually dies with a great
Yes.
finish.
It's a positional sacrifice where the king gets permanently weak, actually.
Beautiful. Wow, Ankit, it's so amazing that the moment we finished our thing, he also finished his work. Nice, sir. Thank you for being with us. 6 positions, solved all of them. 4 out of 6. Is that a good score?
That's a good score, Sagar. But I think if you pay more attention to the opponent's ideas, you might get even 5 or 6. Actually,
I could have gotten more.
Yes.
But Ankit, thank you for giving us this invaluable training in positional chess. Also, the way you explained was fantastic. You were very patient. You showed all the little nuances. If someone wants to train more in positional chess, you've developed a website for it. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Sure, Sagar. So I started a website called chessneurons.com from September 2023. And I put daily 10 positional puzzles, daily 10, so new ones, so every day. And then I also put a video of every week of around 30 minutes explaining some important positions out of those 70 positions during the week to go more in depth. And all the positions that I've shown you today, so I've taken them from Chess Neurons positions, actually. And one thing about Chess Neurons is that I go through the games of players, and then I make the positions, and then my return explanation is also there. So it's not just like moves. The return explanation of all these things that I told you, that will also be there. So you get the Grandmaster insight as well. And you just can train more than just winning material. That is what the tactical positions do. And since these are the ones I'm curating myself, the thing is that these are the positions you're not going to find anywhere else as well. And you get 10 positions a day, so more than 300 positions a month, and like more than 3,600 positions a year.
Yeah, you're solving like 12 books a year.
Yeah, something like that. So we also have other, many features on the website apart from that can make your experience quite good.
And so people can go there and try it out. I think there's 1 week of...
Yes, so basically what can be done is, so if you visit the website, there is a 7-day free trial, no credit card required. You can just go there and explore that. And also especially for ChessBase India viewers, what I would like to do is that for the first 100, we'll be putting a link of Google form or something like that on the description of the video. So if they provide their details there, then for the first 100, we can give them full 1 month subscription of Chess Neurons for free. So they can explore the website, not just the free trial, but the full experience for a month. That how it is.
That's wonderful. Well, Ankit, I think people will go there. We'll put the link in the description. We'll put all the necessary details there. So that people can use it, and then maybe they will learn more about positional chess, and I think they'll get stronger.
Yes,
as players. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for showing us these amazing positions. See you.
Thanks, Sagar. See you.